शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay, so if all of you remember, last time we were on Narada Purana, that is there. So Narada Purana, we will continue looking at the same now. Narada Purana, we were talking about different vratas, Dwadashi mantras, and Dwadashi vrata, the different stories behind that, different vratas that we do. Those who are not there last time, please refer to the recording. You can go through that. Let's continue now. Now next is after the, if you remember last time we had a vrata called Hari Pancharatra vrata, right? So that is the vrata which is done usually starts from the month of Margashirsh and we complete it in the month of Kartik. Next is, now all of us, if we follow the Ekadashi vrata or you do the Dwadashi vrata and so on, but it is said that we have a lot of fruits, right? Most of us, we consume fruits whenever there is a vrata. Most of us, we eat fruits. So from where does this parampara start? Who told us to consume fruits during vratas? That reference comes in the Narada Purana, wherein Sanat Kumara says that there is a fast wherein which is observed especially in the months of Ashada, Shravan, Bhadrapad and Ashwin. That is the months now that are about to come. Shravan starts now, then you have the month of Ashad, Bhadrapad, that is during the Ganesh festival, and then you have the month of Ashwin. On any of these days, it is said that any one day during the Shukla Paksha of these 5 months, any day you can choose, and on this day it is said that you have to worship Lord Vishnu. You can also drink the Panchagavya, and then different scriptures, everything. That's the reason why you have a lot of chanting of Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramayana. We also call this as a Ramayana month, right? So like this, why do we call such periods? Maybe this period is very, very auspicious, especially you have the Chaturmasya also that is on now. Then, so these 4 months you have major festivals also that come in during this part of the month, and then you have the Pitrupaksha Kala that starts towards the end. So you spend a lot of time, you visit various temples. That's how you even have the famous Chardham Yatra that is there during this month and so on. So why things are there? Why do we have majorly all the festivals during this time of the month? Is wherein you have rains everywhere, things are fresh all around. It's a festival season that starts in, and a very auspicious time also for Lord Shiva, worship of Lord Vishnu and so on. So then how the day has to be spent is you again do Abhisheka and all that, and then during this time, description of the various fruits while you do this vrata is said that those who cannot do the full vrata, like all of us when we do different kinds of fast, it becomes very difficult to fast completely, right? To give up food, water, etc. Few of us can do, few of us it becomes difficult. So different fruits can be consumed. Mainly the fruits are banana or apple. That is what has been mentioned. Mainly kadali phalam is what is mentioned, or sometimes people even have apple, orange and fruits like that. So whichever is easily available, but banana mainly why it is mentioned is it is something which is commonly and easily available everywhere. It is also cost effective. At the same time it is healthy and so on, and especially for a vrata, for a fast, this is something banana has to be consumed much. So that's the reason why many people they consume banana and milk together. So all this has been mentioned in the Narada Purana. And then whenever you do this fast, especially in the months of Ashada, Shravan, Bhadrapad and Ashwin, at that time you also need some people, they give in charity and donation, especially to priests and so on. In those times it seems that 12 Brahmins used to be invited to one's house, and people used to even donate jewelry, it seems. So this vrata, mainly in these 4 months, people used to donate even jewelry. The least that we can do is at least maybe to a needy person or so you can help. Next is, you have the story of a Brahmin and how he performed, how he observed the Ekadashi vrata that has been mentioned here. So basically Narada Purana, if you see, talks a lot about different vratas. We saw the Dwadashi vrata. Next there is some reference to the Ekadashi vrata also. So Sanat Kumara further tells Narada that a fast that is done on Ekadashi, during both Krishna Paksha as well as Shukla Paksha, it pleases the Lord very much. So it is very much dear to the Lord. There is no vrata superior to Ekadashi, as we say. And it is said that those who eat on the Ekadashi, they commit severe sins and so on. And therefore, at least on the 11th day, that is on the Ekadashi of every month, fast should be observed. And you read different scriptures and so on, like Srimad Bhagavatam, Vishnu Sahasranama, Gita and so on the Ekadashi day, and then thus you conclude the fast on the Dwadashi day, that is the next day. And just as there is no pilgrimage place which is more holy than the Gangas, like the Ganga river and the different holy places that we have around Ganga, like the Kashi Vishwanatha temple or Gangotri and so on, you have the Ganga river flowing. So most of the pilgrimage places, if you see, will be near a river body, and especially near Ganga you have a lot of holy places. There is no great teacher than a mother, that is what is told. Then there is no great deity. Now all this has been mentioned in the Narada Purana, then Lord Vishnu himself. Similarly, there is no great vrata than the Ekadashi vrata. So therefore there is a story that is associated with this. So once there was a Brahmin, there was a sage, his name was Galava. He lived in the forest on the banks of the river Narmada. And he was very good, he used to love peace, he used to always speak the truth and so on. And there was a beautiful forest around his ashrama, around his hermitage, and he lived there for a long time. He had a son, his name was Bhadrashila. So the name of the sage was Galava. He had a son called Bhadrashila. He was also a great devotee of Lord Vishnu, and he had a lot of friends and so on. And every time what he used to do is, with mud, he used to make an idol of Lord Vishnu and he used to worship the same. So like this, he used to tell his friends also, you do this, and then on every Ekadashi you fast and so on. So basically he was of a very good nature, a very great devotee. And his friends also were very good. They used to also follow whatever Bhadrashila told them. And looking at all this Galava, his father became very happy, saying that I am blessed with such a virtuous son. So he said that he goes and he praises his son, and then Galava, he asks his son Bhadrashila, how come, who taught you all this? Like, I did not teach you so much, right? How come you were born as a great devotee of Lord Vishnu and so on? Can you just tell me more? So Bhadrashila, he said that when I was born, I remember something about my previous birth. So I will tell you that. So he says that during my previous birth, Yama, god of death, he had taught me a lot about all these things, and therefore Galava, he was surprised. He said, Yama himself has taught you all this. How come you met Yama, this, that, everything? He keeps questioning. So at that time Bhadrashila said that I was a king who was born in the Soma dynasty, and many people have come and taught me, like Dattatreya, Dharmakirti, these are all names of the Lord, and I ruled for many years, and during this time I did a lot of good things. At the same time I did a lot of evil things also, and it is said that one fine day I went to the forest. I hunted a lot of animals, and I reached the bank of Narmada finally, and at that time I went deep into the forest. There on the banks of the Narmada, I saw people who were observing the Ekadashi Vrata. So I joined them, I stayed with them, I didn't eat any food and so on. And it is said that at that time what happens is I had to die. Yamadutas came to take my life. And Yamaraja, god of death himself came. And along with him Chitragupta, Yamaraja's, that is Yama's assistant Chitragupta, he also came along. And before my life could be taken, Chitragupta, he thought for a moment, and he said that, he told Yamaraja that this person is surely a sinner, but at least for one night he has observed this Ekadashi Vrata by spending people who are doing this on the banks of the Narmada. Therefore we cannot take him to Yamaloka, so therefore we have to spare him. And so Yamaraja, he said that at that time when the Yamadutas came, Lord God of Death himself came. At this time he came and he preached me all about the worship of Lord Vishnu, how everything has to be done and so on. And that's how I have learned all this. And so therefore you also do all such things. You do a lot of penance, you worship your own mother, you worship all the women who are there, you follow the Ekadashi Vrata and so on. So those who don't do, you serve your teachers, you love people around, you help people. So basically all kinds of good things and different ways of worship and rituals he taught me. He stressed upon a lot on this Ekadashi Vrata. This is what Bhadrashila tells him, what Yamaraja had told him in his previous birth, and that's how all my sins were destroyed, and in my next birth, now that I am born, I am able to worship Lord Vishnu like this. So this is the reason how I'm worshipping Lord Sri Hari continuously. I'm observing the Ekadashi Vrata, and also many people are there around me. To them also I'm preaching the same thing. They are also doing the same thing. So this is how this knowledge I have attained. So this is what he tells his father, and with this Galava he becomes very happy, and he says that my birth has been successful because I got such a son like you who is a great devotee. And further, not only a great devotee, he further also preached me, he told me the complete method, the complete way of worshipping Lord Vishnu. He also stressed a lot on the Ekadashi Vrata. So with this, the different vratas and so on gets over. Next you have a few more stories from the Narada Purana. Now Narada Purana, to that extent, if you see, it's not a very big Purana, so you don't have a lot of stories. Then mainly you have main description of vratas and so on. Next we have a story of a small king, but let's look about it. Now in the Solar dynasty, that is in Lord Rama's dynasty, Surya Vamsha, there was a king called Vrika. His name was Vrika. And his son was Vahu, not Vayu, Vahu, 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 and he became the next king. Now Vahu was also a very good king, and all the four classes of the society, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, he used to treat all of them equally. All of them had very good respect against the king. And Vahu, he ruled very well, and this is when he performed an Ashwamedha sacrifice, and he defeated all his enemies. His subjects were happy. But then slowly, just as destiny has to play, it is said that this king Vahu, he ruled for about 90,000 years. So here again you see all these numeral values have also been mentioned. So whenever you want to know the history of kings or so, you can refer to the Puranas also, because when things are mentioned along with numeral values, the chances of maybe you considering that to be just fiction or imagination becomes less. Otherwise numeral values will not be mentioned. So this king he ruled for about 90,000 years, but destiny had to play. So what happened was that he started feeling, you can say, very proud of all his achievements. People all around were happy. He had defeated all his enemies. He was gaining a lot of respect from all sides. So this Vahu, what happened is a lot of this glory and pride, it went inside his head. So that's how he changed, and he said that I'm only the most powerful person in this world. There is no one who can rule over me. There is no one who's superior than me. And this was that ego, Ahankara, was building up in him. And that's when what he did was he started to suffer. So obviously when pride comes in, then if you see someone superior than you, automatically jealousy has to follow, and so on. So all kinds of bad and negative qualities started developing in Vahu. And because of this, what happened was he started developing enmity with other kings and so on. And at that time, a lot of battles he had to play, and he has to fight with a lot of kings. They came to attack him. So whenever he saw someone who was a bit superior than him, or whenever he saw another king also, immediately he felt that a war should be raged. He should fight with the opposite king. He should take all his wealth and so on. And at this time what happened was, Vahu's wife, her name was Yadavi, she was expecting a child. And Vahu, this person, he was defeated. Vahu, this king, he was defeated by another king, and he was sent to the forest. And therefore what happened was, so Vahu was actually, you can say, like a bandhi. He was imprisoned there in the forest. And now the enemy who was there, they feared that now this Yadavi's son, that is Vahu's son, tomorrow he might come and maybe take revenge for his because we have caught his father and so on. So what we will do is, we will mix some poison into Yadavi's womb. So if you give Yadavi some poison, the child will not be born at all. And now here this same story comes in the Padma Purana also. But in the Padma Purana, there is a slight, you can say small change that comes in, wherein this giving poison to Yadavi's son is not there. It is said that Vahu had a second wife, and that second wife had actually so poison giving was there, but it was not by the enemies. In Narada Purana, it is said that these enemies came and gave poison to Yadavi. In the Padma Purana, the reference comes that Vahu had a second wife, and the second wife gave poison to Yadavi. So like this, there can be a few changes that come as the time period differs. So now mainly now the child was the plans were made to give poison to this woman. And now Vahu, he was there in the forest, he was suffering, he had lost everything, he felt very bad. So what he did was, he felt that let me come with my wife here and spend some time in the forest in the sage Aurva. There was a sage called Aurva. So let me spend some time in this sage hermitage. I don't want to live in the kingdom and so anymore. So with this he returns back. Yadavi was also fed some poison. She lost her son. So both of them, they came to the forest. And on the way, what both of them, they spoke to themselves and so on. And it is said that now everyone started developing a lot of hatred. It is said even creatures in the forest also started hating this king Vahu. And this now, if there are people all around, and everyone is continuously telling us you are evil, you are bad, you did this, you did that, we feel very bad, right? And we, after a certain moment, we cannot bear that. So luckily it doesn't happen with all of us, but still, if someone continuously keeps on telling us you do this, you did that, you are so bad, you have this, because of you I am troubled and so on, continuously someone tells us, automatically we feel bad. So the same thing happened with Vahu. And it is said that his health also deteriorated, old age, everything had happened. Ultimately he died also. And this time what happened is that sage Aurva's ashrama was there nearby, and so they were actually going to the ashrama. They had not yet reached there. And it is said that luckily what happened was, even though the poison, so yeah, Vahu, he died inside. Vahu had already died. His wife Yadavi also decided that let me also die now. There is no life at all. I lost my son also. I lost my child also. The king also is no more. So at that time she reaches Aurva's ashrama. Now Aurva, what he tells was, now the story slightly, it has already come in initial part also, but here you can say the Padma Purana. So I think towards the beginning of Narada Purana I had told you this story, but here little slight change has come. That is a reference of Padma Purana that I told you. Padma Purana, you have the second wife giving poison. Here it is not so. You have the enemies who come and give poison. So here what happens, what Aurva, he tells the wife Yadavi, he tells her that the child inside your womb would have not died completely, because it's not that every time you consume poison, sometimes the poison might also go away. Its effect might not always be that the child inside your womb might die. So it seems that you are expecting. Now this is not magic. In those times, sages, they were not only aware of, you can say, religious matters, spiritual matters, they also had studied a lot of Ayurveda Shastram. They had knowledge of different sciences too. So therefore the sage could make out that the child inside the womb is still alive. So therefore he said that he stopped Yadavi from giving up her life, saying that you are expecting and it is a crime to kill an unborn child. So therefore don't do what you are doing. You go back to your kingdom, you will give birth to a very powerful king. That's how Yadavi goes back to the kingdom, and Vahu, this king, died away. So basically just the story of Vahu has been told you. Okay. Further, with this mostly the Narada Purana has ended. Let me just check in case something is there. You just have the reference of Vamana Purana also here, a very small reference, not much. Then the story of Ganga has come here, and you have lastly your different vratas that have been told. And Narada Purana also stresses upon the Varnashrama Dharma, the 4 Varnas. I am not delving deep into that, because in all the earlier Puranas also we have seen the duty of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras and so on. Then you have a few. Now when should, a very small reference has been given, when should fast or any kind of tithis, why do we follow some tithi? Now we don't do fasting and things like that every day, right? So it is said that fasting should be done on a Dvitiya, on a Shashti, on an Ashtami, Ekadashi, Chaturdashi, Amavasya, Purnima. Dwadashi is not mentioned here. Of course, Dwadashi Vrata, the one Vrata that we saw here, that is there. But usually in Dwadashi Vrata, if you are doing the Ekadashi Vrata, Dwadashi is when we break the Ekadashi Vrata. That's the reason it is not in this list. Whereas you in detail in the initial part we have seen about Dwadashi Vrata. So that is a different Vrata which we do altogether every year for one whole year for every Dwadashi. But usually on the Dwadashi day, whenever we do the Ekadashi Vrata, Dwadashi day it is known for breaking the Ekadashi Vrata. So usually that is not included in the list of Vratas. So I repeat, Dvitiya, Shashti, Ashtami, Ekadashi, Chaturdashi, Amavasya and Purnima. So, and vratas, whatever you do, whatever you follow, always remember it should be in the Shukla Paksha, that is in the bright fortnight, not in the Krishna Paksha. And again, during eclipse time also we don't consume. So this reference, why don't we eat food and so on? Very logical reason, you have the radiations of the sun and the moon. Usually now lunar eclipse comes during night time, so most of us are sleeping, but some people are awake also during that time, and they'll spend a lot of time singing the Lord's glories and so on. And it is said that even a few hours before the main eclipse, that's the reason you see whenever an eclipse comes in, so it will be for about 3-4 hours, right? So the main eclipse time will be in the middle, but then 2 hours before, 2 hours after also we don't consume. For those 4-5 hours total we don't eat anything. So that's all these rules have been mentioned. It is said that 4 hours before a solar eclipse and 3 hours before the lunar eclipse we don't consume food. So whatever has been told, or the different things that we follow in, all that has got a reference, and that reference here you find in the Narada Purana. Lastly, one second, you also have the story of the different manvantaras that are there. That also we have seen in the earlier Puranas, so it is the same repetition. Swayambhuva Manvantara, 8th Manu, 7th Manu, 9th Manu, 10th Manu, and so on. Currently we have Vaivaswata, he is the Manu now. Then you have the reference of the Yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So mainly the Narada Purana, if you see, does not have much stories. It just has a story of a few kings that we discussed. Mainly the story of Ganga, different vratas, dharmashrama, varnashrama rules, story of different yugas, dharma. Dharma is many religion, the duties of each class of the society, Brahmanas, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, Shudras, and ultimately Grihastha-ashrama, Brahmacharya-ashrama, student life, Grihastha-ashrama, householder's life, then Vanaprastha-ashrama and Sannyasa-ashrama. So basically retirement and then Samadhi, post-retirement. So like this, different rules or what exactly is done during all these stages of life, that only has been mentioned here. So with this, Sanat Kumara concludes the Narada Purana. He stops here. He tells Narada, these are all the different things, whatever has been told. And it is said that even if a single verse, a single couplet, as we call, you read from this Purana, all the sins go away. And even the benefit that we get of performing. Now this is a Phalashruti part that comes towards the end of the Purana. And someone who reads a Purana, this Purana will have moksha, punya, and so on. And this text, whenever it is kept in our house, it is said it is free from all kinds of evil spirits, demons, ghosts, and theft also doesn't take place in one's house. And it is said that at least 20 shlokas from this Purana should be read every morning. So every morning, pratakalaha, at least 20 shlokas from this Purana should be read. Now, this Purana, the Purana itself says that it ends, you can say, like whenever I was telling you also, maybe you are expecting, okay, this Purana might go more and more, more and more. But then it just ends in between, it seems. And because it doesn't have a story matter as such, it's very theoretical. It tells about yugas, tells about vratas. So as such, there is no proper flow that is there in the Narada Purana. Its end is not like usually whenever, say for example, you take the Ramayana, it starts with the birth story of Rama, then his entire life. Ultimately, you can say the end of Rama Avatara. So you have a good start, then the main story, the main body, and then ultimately it ends, right? So this is how we expect. Whereas the Narada Purana doesn't end that way. In fact, all the Puranas, if you see, Puranas are not stories. They have a few stories, but they are like, you can say, they contain a lot of information. So therefore, whenever we say information, it will be a mix of different things. So it talks about this, next the topic will change, next the topics, a lot of topics are covered. So therefore, they are like an encyclopedia. It will give you information about different things. Narada Purana especially, it ends abruptly, wherein Sanat Kumara, he feels that now Narada, he is a Devarshi. He already knows many things. Only in a few places he has a few doubts, so that's what he gets it cleared from his elder brother Sanat Kumara. And after he gets the answers, he goes back. So with this, Narada Purana comes to an end. Okay. Now next we start with Agni Purana. We have not seen Agni Purana, right? Before, I don't remember. No, right?
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't. Okay.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think. Agni Purana. No.
Okay.
Okay. Let's start. Agni Puranam. Agni Puranam, as the word goes, Agni, fire. Right? Yes? Anyone wants to say something? Sanjeev ji?
Can I tell the name from Puranas?
Sir.
Puran, Ganga Puran, Varaha Puran, Puran, Kurma Puran, Puran, and Vishnu.
Okay. So Agni Purana is still remaining. Right? Okay. Let's start. So Agni Purana, it is basically a conversation between Vasishta and Agni. So mainly Vasishta, sorry, I told you the other way around. It is the preaching which Agni told to Vasishta. So Agni Bhagavan, Agni Deva tells it to Vasishta. Further Vasishta, he tells it to Vyasa. Vyasa narrates it to Suta. Suta, then he tells this Agni Purana to an assembly of sages in Naimisharanya. Now, in the initial chapters of this Purana, we have a description of lot of incarnations of the Lord, like Rama, Krishna, and so on. Then various rituals with regards to Lord Shiva has been mentioned in the Agni Purana. And then you have a bit of geography that has been mentioned here about the earth, stars, and so on. So first is the topic. It starts, this Purana in all has got 9 chapters, and initially it starts with different avatars. Now, in the forest, in the Naimisharanyam forest, Shaunaka, all other sages, they were doing a sacrifice in praise of Lord Vishnu. Suta had also come there, and sages, they asked Suta that you tell us the most sacred, what is most sacred in this world. And Suta says that Vishnu is the most sacred, and so on. Further, he says that I went to a hermitage with Shuka Brahman, as we say, Shuka, Paila, these are all names of different sages, and there I met Vyasa. Vyasa told what he had learned from the great sage Vasishta, which is popularly called as Agni Purana, and it tells us of the essence of everything, essence of Brahman, of the supreme reality, and I learned all this, and now I am going to tell all of you this. So this is how he starts preaching the Agni Purana. And first he asks that what exactly is an avatara. So from the Agni Purana is where we have the concept of avatars or incarnations that had started. Today we have various avatars of Lord Vishnu, Lord Vishnu was mainly popular, but we have incarnations of other gods also. So an avatara is basically an incarnation wherein the Lord, he takes a human form mainly. Sometimes it can even be an animal form to be born on earth. And why do they do this? Mainly to destroy evil that is on earth and to establish dharma again. Just as Krishna tells in the Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Every yuga I will reincarnate to establish dharma. So therefore Vishnu does that, and most of Vishnu has got 9 incarnations, and the 10th will take place in future. That is nothing but the Kalki Avatara. So from this, now in all, does anyone know in all how many incarnations are there of Lord Vishnu?
I think the 24 or 24.
22
or 24.
22 avatars of Lord Vishnu. Out of that, you have this reference from the Srimad Bhagavatam. 22 or 24? I think it should...
22 they told in some book, it is 24.
24. Okay. So mainly that this confusion maybe some they might not consider in the list. So that can be like, for example, even Buddha sometimes we don't consider, but instead of that you have Balarama. So like this there are a few confusions. But here in the Agni Purana, what we have to notice when we study about the Dashavataras, that Dashavatara, Matsyavatara and so on, why we consider those 10 avatars as most important, that reference comes in the that order of the Dashavataras, it comes in the Agni Purana. So first is Matsyavatara. Suta tells this to all the sages at Naimisharanyam. Starts with Matsyavatara, Kurma, Varaha, Narasimha, Vamana, Parshurama, Rama, Krishna, Buddha. Here also it is Buddha, and Kalki. Kalki is Avatara which is yet to come. Rest everything, Matsya fish, Kurma tortoise, Varaha boar, Narasimha half man half lion, Vamana dwarf, Parshurama sage, Rama, Krishna, Buddha and Kalki. Now story of all these 10 incarnations has been told in the first chapter only. first starts with the Matsya Avatara. In short, everything has been told, so I'll also tell you quickly in short. Matsya Avatara, Agni tells a story to Vasishta, tells when the whole world was destroyed, it is Pralaya Kala. At that times, the destruction or the Pralaya, it seemed that it went to all the three lokas. All the three lokas, Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Swarloka. Note these terms. Bhulokam, earth, Swarloka, Swarga. Bhuvarloka is a region between the earth and heaven. So that part in between. All these three worlds were flooded with water. Vaivasvata Manu, he was the son of the sun god. He had done a lot of tapasya in a hermitage called Vadrika. Now, it was the same hermitage where Suta had initially met Shuka, from where he got to know about Agni Purana. And this hermitage was on the banks of the river Kritamala. And these are all different tributaries, different rivers which were there in ancient India. Now, once Manu, he came to this river, he put his hands inside, and that's when he found a small fish there. Manu was about to put the fish back into water when the fish said, "Don't throw me back. I'm scared of big fishes and all other water creatures. You save me." So Manu found a small pot, he kept the fish inside. Now, there can be different versions to the Matsya Avatara story. This is as per the Agni Purana. But soon the fish became big. Manu bought a large vessel, in that he put the fish. Again it became very big. Manu put it inside a lake, it became big. Next he put it inside the ocean. Ocean also became very big. By now Manu knew that this is not a normal fish. He said, you must be Lord Vishnu himself. You tell me, why are you troubling me like this in the form of a fish? You are increasing your size continuously. Is there any reason behind this? The fish at that time replied that I have to Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. I have to punish the evil and protect the good. So 7 days from now, the ocean, the water is going to flood the entire world. All the beings are going to be destroyed. But since you have saved me, I am going to save you. So when the world is flooded, a boat will come here. Along, you take the Saptarishis with that boat, and you also take food grains with you, and I will come there and with my horn. Now the fish, this Matsya, you can say the fish's mouth, if you see, it's not exactly like a horn, but you can see the mouth of the fish. Sometimes a few varieties of fish, few species, they have, you can say, a bit, the mouth will be little big, like the shape of a horn. So that way you in a big boat, I will carry all the Saptarishis and you to a safe place. Saying all this, the fish disappeared. As the fish had told, the same thing happened. Manu climbed inside the boat. He prayed to the fish, and at this time the fish told the Matsya Purana to him. We have already seen the Matsya Purana. So the story of Matsya Purana was told by the fish to Manu, and eventually the water reduced. The boat also reached the Himalayas, and all the creation process started again. All living beings were created. And at this time what happened was, there was a demon called Hayagriva. He had stolen the sacred Vedas and all the knowledge. In the form of Matsya, Vishnu killed this demon, and he also recovered the Vedas. Next is Kurma Avatara. You have the Samudra Manthana story. The gods and the demons, they had a war. At that time all of them prayed to Lord Vishnu. Then when they were churning the ocean, Vishnu said that I will become the churning, you can say, the base that is needed. So Mount Mandara was the churning rod. Vasuki was a rope that was used for churning. You need a base, right, to support the mountain in the ocean. So Vishnu said that I will take the form of a kurma, of a turtle, so that the peak, the mountain, can be balanced properly and the churning will take place. And at this time Kalakuta, the terrible poison, comes out. It was swallowed by Lord Shiva. Shiva becomes Nilakantha. The next goddess Varuni, the goddess of wine, or Sura, she comes out next. The gods accept that. That's how they get the name of Suras. Asura, opposite of Suras. Suraha, gods. Asura, demons. Next, the demons, they rejected Varuni. They did not take the goddess Varuni, and that's how they were known as Asuras. Next came the Parijata tree that was situated in Indra's garden. Next, the jewel Kaustuba came out, which was accepted by Lord Vishnu. 3 animals came: the cow Kapila, horse Ucheshtava, and elephant Airavata. Then beautiful Apsaras came. They became the dancers of heaven. And they were, now why this name Apsaras has come is because up meaning water, apaha we say, meaning water. So those who are born out of water, that's how they get the name Apsaras. Then goddess Mahalakshmi comes out. She was married of the Lord Vishnu. Next, Dhanvantari, the god of medicine, comes with Amrita, and he was originator of medicine or Ayurveda. Now the Daityas, what they did was, they gave half of the Amrita and they ran away here and there. Immediately Vishnu, he adopted the form of a beautiful woman Mohini, and that's how she distracted the demons, took away the Amrita, gave it very smartly to the gods. But one of the demons, he was clever, his name was Rahu. He assumed the form of Chandra, moon god, and he drank some Amrita. But Vishnu and the sun god and moon god, they saw what was happening. They told to Vishnu. Vishnu cut off Rahu's head, but Rahu had drunk Amrita, so he could not die. And he prayed to Lord Vishnu. Vishnu granted him a boon, and the boon was, because the sun god and moon god had seen Rahu doing, they had complained to Lord Vishnu. He got the permission to swallow up the sun, and the moon during certain times of the year. That's what happens during the solar and the lunar eclipse. And people who do a lot of donation and charity during this time, they are blessed. That's the reason why whenever the eclipse happens, you have people, right? You have some needy people. They come on the road and they will shout, saying that the grahana eclipse has gone away. Now you give us something. And most of us, we give clothes, money, etc. to these people. So this is how this. From here, the Kurma Avatara ends. Gods get Amrita, demons do not. Thus the gods become more powerful and they defeat demons. Next is the story of Varaha. Sage Kashyapa and his wife Diti, they had a son Hiranyaksha. Hiranyaksha got a lot of boons from Brahma, and thus he was troubling heaven, earth, hell, everything. All the asuras, all the devas went to Lord Vishnu, prayed to him, and it is saying that something has to be done about Hiranyaksha. Now Hiranyaksha, it is said that he lived underwater in Varuna's palace. Varuna Deva, the lord of water, he had built a palace inside water, Varuna, and this Hiranyaksha had got that also. He used to live under the ocean, and all the gods went and prayed. At that time, this Hiranyaksha, what he had done, that he had taken the earth, he had taken Bhumi Devi and he had placed her also inside the ocean. So that's the reason Vishnu, he assumed the form of a Varaha boar. He dug down, he entered the ocean, and Hiranyaksha himself was there. But then he did not know that this boar was none other than Lord Vishnu. He thought it's just an ordinary boar. He attacked it. The two fought for many years. Finally Hiranyaksha was killed, and the boar Varaha, he brought back the earth again with his tusks, and thus Vishnu, he saved the gods, and again Dharma was established. Third Avatara, Varaha Avatara. Next is Narasimha Avatara, Hiranyakashipu and Prahlada story, all of us know. Let's not go deep into that. That's how Narasimha Bhagavan came to save Bhakta Prahlada. Next is Vamana Avatara. Vamana Avatara, Bali. He became proud of his achievements. Vamana had to come there, and Vamana asked something as Dakshina, and his Dakshina was in 3 steps. Wherever I keep my leg, those 3 steps of land belongs to me. One was on earth, one was on heaven. So everything was being covered. The third, Bali kept his head. Vamana kept his third leg on Bali's head, and that's how Bali realized where he had gone wrong. He felt he can, whatever anyone asks, he can bless anyone with everything. Thus Vamana Avatara was taken. Next, thus the Asura Bali, he went down to Patada. He started ruling Patada, and Indra got back his Swarga. Next is Parshurama. Now Parshurama, he had an enmity towards Kshatriyas because his father was killed by a Kshatriya. So Vishnu then, why even this Parshurama Avatara took place was, it was said that there was a time wherein the Kshatriyas, Kshatriyas' main dharma used to take care of their subjects and maybe to protect the kingdom or protect the place from external enemies. That is their main role, and to protect the kingdom. But then there was a time wherein they started troubling the world. That's the reason when we have a lot of evil kings coming in, they started showing their power over the world, and innocent people were being attacked. So this was when Vishnu felt that I should be born in the line of the sage Jamadagni and his wife Renuka. This was the line of the sage Bhrigu. So Parshurama, he was called Bhargava, another name of Parshurama, and mainly Parshurama's mission was to protect sages and teach a lesson to the Kshatriyas who are very proud and haughty. So there was a king called Kartyavira who had got a lot of boons from Lord Dattatreya, and he had got a lot of weapons, arms and so on. He ruled over the entire world. He went to the forest one day, and one fine day he was very tired, and he invited sage Jamadagni. he was invited. So he was very tired, and you had the hermitage of Sage Jamadagni, Parshurama's father there. So Sage Jamadagni had invited the king, saying that you can come and rest here. So Sage Jamadagni, he had a cow, Kamadhenu, a wish-fulfilling cow. So Kartavira, immediately he looked at it and he felt I should have it. So Jamadagni refused. So Kartavira, he kidnapped, he abducted the cow by force, and now a war started between Kartavira and Parshurama. In this war, Parshurama, he cut off Kartavira's head with his Parshu. That's how he got the name Parshurama. And he brought back Kamadhenu. But after some time, when Parshurama was not there, Kartavira's sons come there and they kill Jamadagni. And after knowing the death of his father, Parshurama's anger, there was, you can say, no end to that. He killed all the Kshatriyas in the world 21 times. And on the plains of Kurukshetra, in today's Haryana, he built about 5 wells, it seems, which were full of blood of the Kshatriyas. And immediately eventually in the course of time, he handed this line over to Kashyapa, and he went and lived on Mount Mahendra. Next, you have the story of Rama. The Ramayana story has been mentioned in gist here. So, in fact, you see, Agni Purana is the only Purana wherein you have the story of Ramayana, which has been built, which has been mentioned, and here you also have the story of Shatrughna killing the Asura, Lavana-asura. So this story is also mentioned towards the end. Now Ramayana story, most of us were familiar, I am not going deep into that. But towards the end of the Ramayana, after Pattabhisheka and so on, Shatrughna killing Lavana-asura, an Asura that has been mentioned here. Lavana-asura used to live in the city of Mathura, and Bharata was sent by Rama to kill a Gandharva called Shailusha. He used to live on the banks of Sindhu Nadi, that is the Indus river, and Bharata killed all of them, and there he built 2 cities, Takshashila and Pushkaravati, which he gave to his own sons. In Takshashila, Bharata kept his son Ataksha. Pushkaravati, he made his son Pushkara as the king. And Rama and Sita had about 2 sons, Kusha and Lava. He ruled for about 11,000 years. So this is the story of the Ramayana, which is mentioned in the Agni Purana. Next, you have the Krishna Avatara. Now, Krishna Avatara, Krishna is the 8th Avatara, and here what happens is, the second, you can say this is till Ramavatara is one section of the Agni Purana. Next, you have something called, some references with Harivamsha and Mahabharata. Now, Harivamsha Puranam is one Upapurana separate also. It is also considered to be a separate Purana. But in some references, Harivamsha is also considered to be a part of the main Mahabharata story. So that's how roughly you can consider about 1.25 roughly lakh verses the Mahabharata as 1.25. More than 1 lakh verses that the Mahabharata has including the Harivamsha Purana. So here now, initially the story of Harivamsha has been mentioned in the Agni Purana. What exactly it is? Hari's Vamsha, the dynasty of Lord Hari. So Brahma is born from Vishnu's navel. That's how is the story. His sons were Atri, Soma. Atri son Soma, Soma son Pururava son Ayu son Nahusha son Yayati. Yayati had 2 wives, Devayani, Sharmishta. Quickly, I am just telling you the lineage because we have already seen all this, and it's just the lineage of Lord Hari. If you want, you can listen to the audios later. And Yayati had 2 wives, Devayani and Sharmishta. Devayani had 2 sons, Yadu, Turvasu. Yadu, from that's how the Yadavas or the Yadukula has come in. Sharmishta had 3 sons, Druhya, Anu and Puru. Descendants of Yadu were known as Yadavas. Vasudeva was Yadava, he was married to Devaki, that's how Krishna was born. The 7th son was Baladeva, 8th son was Krishna himself. He was born in the month of Bhadra, that's how you have the Gokulashtami coming up. And then the story how Vasudeva left him with Nanda, that has been mentioned. He lived in Vrindavana, then Krishna, he killed Putana, then they shifted to Vrindavana, Kaliya, Arishta, Vrishaba, Keshi, Dhenuka, Gardhaba, many asuras were killed. Finally, Kuvalaya Pida, Krishna and Balarama come to Mathura, they kill the elephant Kuvalaya Pida. Then Chanura, Mushtika were killed, Kamsa himself was killed. That next king, Ugrasena, was made the king. Then the war between Jarasandha has been mentioned. Krishna finally managed to defeat Jarasandha, also another king, Paundraka. Then the Yadavas built a beautiful city, Dwaravati or Dwaraka. Yadavas began to live in Dwaraka. There you have Narakasura, who was killed by Krishna. Narakasura had imprisoned about 16,000 daughters of the Devas, Gandharvas, Yakshas, and so on. So, to give them protection. So, basically, these women were freed by Krishna. All those women requested to Lord Krishna, saying that in those times, even in today's times, if you see widows or people who are not accepted by the society, like maybe it becomes very difficult, right, for women also in today's times also. If you are married off, and then maybe at least in today's times it is quite easy, like a divorce or something, you come back to your parents' house, it's still fine. But at least a few years back, or even today also, if you see, the society looks upon a woman with that, you can say, low mentality. And maybe women also, they feel, "Oh, again I have to go back to my parents' house, or what will people think," and so on. So all this was still there. So those queens, those 16,000 queens, they said that they requested Krishna that who will protect us now, who will take care of us. So that's when Krishna said that, okay, I will marry all of you. And now, why, when he said that he married, doesn't mean that he went in the family way with all of them. So mainly, so when people, why I'm telling you this is, people will keep names. Krishna married 16,000 times. You marry once, you cannot live once with your partner properly, right? And then still we argue saying that the Lord is married 16,000 times. He had just Ashtamahishis with whom he had different sons also. But these daughters of Narakasura were married off so that they get some protection, so that the society also accepts them. And simply Krishna cannot keep them, right? Again, the society will poke fingers. Therefore, marriage was the only way. So he built separate palaces for them. He used to spend equal time with them. So they were like protection, that for the sake of whom he had married Narakasura. In some references, it's not mentioned in the Agni Purana, but in some references, you have that these same, even the Gopikas as well as these 16,000 daughters of Narakasura, that is one story. In fact, they were all sages in the Ramayana Kala, the Gopikas and all these different princesses that Krishna comes across during Krishna Avatara. All those sages had told Rama in the Rama Avatara that you spend time with us, don't go away. Rama used to continuously keep traveling, right, from one hermitage to another. So at that time, Rama had promised, saying that in my next avatara, I will spend a lot of time with all of you. So that's the reason why in the next avatara, Krishna avatara, the Gopikas spent a lot of time with Krishna, or all these different princesses. So to keep the promise, he had bought all these women. Further, Krishna, he had killed so with this Narakasura, all those women were married to Krishna. Next, he had killed a Daitya called Panchajana. He killed Kalayavana. Then the Parijata tree was bought from Indraloka. That is, it was given back to Indraloka, and then Sandipani's dead son was also brought back to life as Guru Dakshina to his Guru Sandipani. He brought back his son's life. Krishna had brought several sons. Jambavati's son was Shamba. Pradyumna, Rukmani's son, through Rukmani. Then it is said that as soon as Pradyumna was born, an Asura Shambara, he had threw the baby into the sea. A fish swallowed the baby. A fisherman, he caught the fish and brought it to Shambara's house. And when the fish's stomach was opened, the baby came out. And there was a woman called Mayavati who lived in Shambara's house. And Shambara, he handed over this baby Pradyumna to Mayavati. So basically what happened was, things played back. The Shambara, this Asura, he had abducted Pradyumna. Ultimately, he threw the baby into the sea. But a fish swallowed the baby and it came back. The fisherman brought it back to Shambara's house only. Shambara failed to realize that it was the same baby which he had thrown. He felt that I will give it to this lady Mayavati, she will bring him very well. And Pradyumna, he killed Shambara later and he married this lady Mayavati. And they returned back to Dwaraka, and Krishna was very happy to see his lost son. Next, Pradyumna and Mayavati, they had a son called Aniruddha. Usha, the story of Usha comes in, wherein Usha had secretly actually married off Aniruddha, and then later Krishna comes and accepts. And all this happens in a place called Shonitapura. And there you have a king, Vana. Vana had pleased Lord Shiva through a lot of tapasya, and sometimes he is also called as a son of Shiva. And he got a boon from Shiva that with whomever he fights, that opposite person should be equal in battle. So he always felt that equality is needed. If things are not equal, maybe I fight with a person, or we have some competition with a person who doesn't match our level, it will not be an equal competition, right? So this Vana, who was the father of Usha. So basically, you can consider like Aniruddha, that is Krishna's grandson's father-in-law. Look at the relations very carefully. So he had asked the boon from Lord Shiva, saying that with whomever I fight, that person should be equal. And Shiva told him, Shiva had blessed him with this. And with a friend of Usha, Aniruddha and Usha, they used to meet secretly, it seems, in Varna's palace. Now, this story we had, I think, if I remember in some Vishnu Sahasranama meaning or so, I think I told you the story. There, the reference, Parashara Bhatta mentions is little differently. Aniruddha did not know at all about Usha. Secretly, Usha and her friend, they come and meet Chitralekha is her name. Anyone remembers? I think in the Vishnu Sahasranama only I had told you, right? No one? Anuradha ji, Shamala ji, Sanjeev ji, Lakshman ji, whoever attends.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rashmi ji, you have told
Ah.
about that Rashara Bhattaran, you have told.
Ah.
But
So just what I'm saying is, maybe it's difficult to remember, but then just recently, I think last week or beyond that, we had seen wherein Usha, she comes, grandson of Krishna's Aniruddha. So wherein Usha, she comes to marry. Usha with her friend Chitralekha, she comes and she approaches Aniruddha. This is what is the story. But then in the Agni Purana, it is said that Aniruddha and Usha, they used to meet secretly and so on. And that's how Vana, he used to get very angry, and then great battle took place between Vana and Aniruddha. And Krishna got to know about this. Immediately he, along with Balarama, Pradyumna, all of them come here. And it is said that Shiva at this time, because Vana, he was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, Shiva used to consider him as his own son. He himself came to fight on Vana's side, accompanied by Nandi, Skanda, Kartikeya. And finally it is said that after all the war also, Krishna, he won over these enemies. And it is said that Vana had about 1,000 arms. All those arms also were cut by Krishna's arrows. But at Shiva's request, his life was spared. And he also got 2 normal arms. So all these stories about Krishna are told in the Harivamsha. Agni Purana just gives a very brief, you can say, brief summary of the Harivamsha Purana. But there are a few stories about Krishna, the 8th avatar of Lord Vishnu. Now mainly why these stories of Krishna are mentioned in the Agni Puranas, because it's not Krishna Leela stories, but the incarnations of Lord Vishnu are highlighted. So that's the reason you have all these stories coming in. And a few other stories of Krishna that come in the Mahabharata that has been mentioned. So next, the Agni Purana talks about Mahabharata. Now this is a very, you can say, and then ultimately you have the Buddha Avatara, Kalki Avatara, and so on. This is quite a big topic, so I don't want to start with this now, otherwise we'll have to stop in between. So those, we still have 5 minutes. For today we will stop here. Tomorrow we will continue looking at Agni Purana, wherein the stories of Krishna as mentioned in the Mahabharata. So for today we will stop here. We'll continue tomorrow. Namaste, Hari Om, Dhanyavadaha. Om शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay, so we had started with Agni Purana yesterday. Let's continue. So Agni Purana, like we had discussed yesterday, those who are not there, please go through the audio. So Agni Purana, we had started with Harivamsha. Harivamsha is mainly, if you see the initial part of Agni Purana, talks about various incarnations, avatars of Lord Vishnu. So Harivamsha is a part of Hari's Vamsha, dynasty of Lord Hari, that is Lord Krishna. So mainly Harivamsha or the Mahabharata that comes in the Agni Purana is a part of Krishna Avatara. So we saw about Harivamsha. Next is Mahabharata. Now mainly it is said that in Agni Purana mentions that the Pandavas were just a medium for Krishna to win over evil, it seems. So the birth of Pandavas, or even the instance of the Lord preaching the Gita to Arjuna is just a medium. So Arjuna was just a medium so that the Gita reaches the world. So mainly even the Pandavas were born to help Krishna to rid the world of evil men. And next we had also seen that from Yadu, Yadavas were born. Similarly, Yayati's son was Puru, and in Puru's line were born Bharata and Kuru. And Kurukshetra, that's how we have. Kuru's descendants was a king Shantanu. He married river Ganga. Bhishmacharya was born. Shantanu, he remarried Satyavati. He married Satyavati. Two more sons were born, Chitrangada, Vichitravirya. But Bhishma, as we have the famous Bhishma Pratignya, he never married. Chitrangada, he died when he was very young. Vichitravirya grew up. At that time, Bhishmacharya, he defeated the king of Kashi, and two daughters were brought, Ambika and Ambalika, as brides for Vichitravirya. But Vichitravirya also died while he was very young. He died of tuberculosis, it seems. That also has been mentioned in the Agni Purana. Vichitravirya also, he had two brides, Ambika and Ambalika, but still they also were not blessed with children. And Vyasa was born to Hastinapura. Now Vyasa and Ambalika, they had a son, that is Dhritarashtra. And Vyasa and Ambalika had a son called Pandu. Now, how this is born, it seems that now Vyasacharya was someone, he was a sage, right? So, there are some references that are told. These can be even folklores. It is said, so basically, it was just so that Ambalika will be blessed with children. So, that is the reason why Vyasacharya was mainly bought, and it seems that Ambalika came and shut Vyasa's eyes from behind. That's how Dhritarashtra was, just as a maybe in a fun way she did that, and that's the reason why Dhritarashtra was born blind, it seems. And Pandu, he was affected with some yellow fever or so. So that's the reason why both the children who were born, Dhritarashtra and Pandu, they had some defect in them. Further, Dhritarashtra, he married Gandhari, and that's how 100 Kauravas were born. Pandu had two wives, Kunti, Madri. Kunti's three sons, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna. Madri's were Nakula, Sahadeva. And Pandu had got a curse that biologically he cannot give birth. That is, physically, if he gets into a relationship with any woman, immediately that will lead to his death. That is the reason why Kunti had the boon that she had got. Because of that, she prayed to the Lord, and each of the gods blessed her with a son. And even Madri also, Nakula and Sahadeva were born to her. So that's how Yudhishthira was a son of Lord Dharma, Pandu was of Lord Vayu, Arjuna, Indra, Nakula and Sahadeva were the sons of the two Ashwini Kumaras. And earlier Kunti had a son from Karna, that is sun god, from the sun god. He was Karna. And Karna became a friend of Duryodhana, and because of a curse, Pandu died in the forest. Madri also jumped into fire. And Duryodhana, so in short, the Mahabharata story has been told. Duryodhana tried his best to kill the Pandavas in many ways. He set fire to a house which was made of lac, in which Kunti and the 5 Pandavas were staying, but somehow they fled to a city called Ekachakra. There they live disguised, and there was a story a story goes about that there was a Rakshasa called Vaka, and that's how you have the Draupadi Swayamvara there. And Arjuna, he hit the fish, saw the reflection of the fish, he hit the eye of the fish. That's how he married Draupadi. Without looking back, Kunti said that whatever you got, share it among the 5 brothers. It was Draupadi the queen. That's how all the 5 princes, they married Draupadi. Duryodhana later learns that Pandavas were alive, and he also knows that now they have also married a queen, Draupadi. This, he gets very angry, but ultimately he handed half of the kingdom to them. Meanwhile, what happens is Krishna and Arjuna came together. Krishna became a very good friend of Arjuna, and he obtained a lot of divine weapons also from Dronacharya and so on. Yudhishthira became the king and organized a Rajasuya Yajna in which they had a lot of wealth and so on. Again, Duryodhana became jealous. He arranged a game of dice. So that's the reason why the Mahabharata story is so big. Already the Pandavas had lost their kingdom, they had gone to the forest. Then again they regained, they came back. Duryodhana gave them half of the kingdom. But still, later what happened, Yudhishthira became the king, he performed. 1 second, hold on. So, he became the king, half of the kingdom was given to Yudhishthira, he performed a Rajasuya Yajna, and further several kingdoms were bought under him, he had got a lot of wealth. Duryodhana became jealous, and then he arranged this game of dice with the help of his uncle Shakuni. That's how Yudhishthira lost the game. and Pandavas had to again go to the forest for 12 years. And 1 year that they had to spend in incognito, nobody should detect them. Draupadi also followed them, and it seems that one priest of the Pandavas, Dhaumya, he also had followed them. 12 years were over, Pandavas came to the kingdom of Virata, where they had to spend 1 year in disguise. Yudhishthira was a Brahmana there, Bhima was a cook, Arjuna was a dancer, Nakula and Sahadeva, they helped in the stable. They used to rear horses and so on. Draupadi became the queen's maid. At that time, the queen's brother Kichaka, he tried to molest Draupadi. He was killed immediately by Bhima. And finally, it said when the year was about to end, the Kauravas, they attacked King Virata. And at that time, Arjuna, he defeated all the Kauravas. And he was actually a female dancer. So looking at the power of Arjuna in the form of a female dancer, the Kauravas started getting a doubt that this might be Arjuna only, and it could be no longer a secret. But somehow the 1 year period was over. King Virata's daughter Uttara, she married Abhimanyu, Arjuna's son. Uttara's none but Parikshit's mother. Abhimanyu's mother was Subhadra, Krishna's sister. Now Pandavas, they demanded their share of the kingdom. Again Duryodhana refused. So now you know why the Gita was preached. So many times the Pandavas had to face everything, but still Duryodhana refused. That's the reason why the Kurukshetra war had to take place. Lot of Akshauhinis. It seems that Duryodhana collected 11 Akshauhinis, Yudhishthira got 7. Krishna was sent as a messenger, Shanti Duta, in order to tell our Duryodhana. And Krishna told Duryodhana that you give mere 5 villages, you give to the Pandavas, they will be satisfied. But Duryodhana was not ready even to that. He said that I will not give even a penny. Even if I lose the war, it is fine, but the Pandavas will not get anything. So his arrogance or his stubbornness only ultimately led to his loss, and he lost his life also, his death too. Finally, all the armies, they gathered on Kurukshetra. Even Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya they were fighting on the side of the Kauravas. Arjuna was reluctant to fight. That's when Krishna preached the Gita, and he said that there is no reason for sorrow because only their physical bodies are going to die, the soul will always live, and so on. Thus, Arjuna finally starts to fight. He defeats Bhishma with the help of Shikhandi. This happens on the 10th day of the war. Bhishma does not die because Ichhamrityu. Whenever he wished, he can die. This boon he had got. Many days he laid on the battlefield. And after Bhishma's defeat, Dronacharya became the general. Dronacharya, he killed Virata, Drupada, several other kings. Drishtadyumna also killed many Kaurava soldiers. On the 15th day, there was a rumor that Ashwathama was killed. Dronacharya heard this news, he gave up all his weapons and so on, and very easily Drishtadyumna could kill him. Next, Karna becomes the Kaurava general. So Bhishma, next Drona, next Karna, which for about 2.5 days or so, and ultimately he was killed by Arjuna. Next, Shalya was the last Kaurava general. He fought for 1.5 days or so and was killed by Yudhishthira. So all this has been mentioned in the Agni Purana with details with the time periods. Further, Bhima and Duryodhana, they fight the last war, Gadha Yuddham. Bhima breaks the ties, Urubhangam breaks the ties of Duryodhana. Ashwathama was fuming here and there, he was running after hearing the news of the death of his father. He enters, at night he enters the Pandava camp where he kills Drishtadyumna, who had killed Dronacharya, his father, and also the 5 sons of Draupadi. Just imagine the plight of Draupadi. At one time she loses all her 5 sons in one go. Draupadi, she demanded revenge. She said that I cannot console myself anyhow. Not one, not two, I lost all my 5 sons together. Something has to be done now. Arjuna and Ashwathama, Arjuna also got very angry. He set his weapons on Ashwathama, and all the divine weapons that both of them had, they were setting. But finally Krishna told that don't do this because the entire world might be destroyed. Because Arjuna was blessed with Pashupatasram, this, that, so many divine weapons. Ashwathama also had a lot of divine weapons. But Arjuna, it seems that he could withdraw his weapon back, but Ashwathama did not know that. He knew how to set a weapon out, but he did not know how to take it back. Ashwathama's weapon, it killed the baby that was there in Uttara's womb, but Krishna brought it back to life, because if that child was killed, none of the descendants of the Pandavas would be available. So therefore Krishna saved the child inside Uttara's womb, and this baby was none but Parikshit. Because later we need the Srimad Bhagavatam. If not for Parikshit, we would have never received this Purana. Therefore, Parikshit was saved by Krishna. And another thing was Soma Vamsha, Pandavas Vamsha. All the 5 sons of Draupadi were anyway killed. But luckily, in Uttara's womb the child was there, so at least one descendant of the Pandavas was alive. If not, if Parikshit was also killed, none would be alive. The lineage gets over there. That is the reason why Parikshit's life had to be saved. Then ultimately many other kings and soldiers also died in the Kurukshetra war. The only ones who were left now from the Kauravas and Pandavas side were Kritavarma, Kripacharya, Ashwathama and the Pandavas, Pancha Pandavas. Finally, after the war was over, Bhishma tells him Vishnu Sahasranama and the duties of Rajadharma to Yudhishthira, and after this he dies in the Uttarayana Kala. Next, as a king, Yudhishthira, he did a lot of yajnas, he donated to a lot of Brahmins, and when he learned that Yadavas were destroyed, Krishnavatara was also is about to come to an end, he said that now I am also have turned old, I also no longer wish to rule. He handed over the king to Parikshit kingdom, and all the Pandavas they left on a pilgrimage. And thus Krishnavatara also ends, and with this Krishna we come to know he uses the Pandavas as a tool to win over evil kings, and realizing that the Yadavas were also evil, they had got a curse that Yadav Kula would come to an end. Yadavas also, they started fighting with each other. He gave up his own life at Prabhasa Kshetram, wherein Jara, a hunter, came and killed Krishna. That is, he shot an arrow at Krishna's leg, it hit, and that's how Krishnavatara came to an end. Krishna immersed himself into Srimad Bhagavatam, and the city, after Krishna dies, Krishnavatara ends, city of Dwaraka was swallowed by the sea. With this okay, so with this Krishnavatara comes to an end. Next you have the Buddha Avatara and the Kalki Avatara, and you have the story of creation. Okay. Now the 9th Avatara of Vishnu was Buddha, and the 10th will be Kalki. So again it is future, Bhavishyat Kalaha, that the 10th will be Kalki Avatara. Now here you have, in the Agni Purana, you have the story of Buddha. It seems that once there was a war between the demons and the gods, Devas and Asuras, in which the demons, they defeated the gods. All the gods went running to Vishnu. Vishnu told them that Maya Moha, he would be born as Buddha, the son of Shuddhodana. And ultimately it is said that all the Asuras, they left the path that was told by Vedas, and they all became Buddhists, it seems, and they performed a lot of ceremonies and so on, and they oppressed the Vedas, they became robbers, they became disbelievers. That is, mainly now Buddhists, they are not evil people also, they don't consider the authority of the Vedas, that's it. And further, so that Buddha mainly he came. Now Vishnu Buddha is what has been told. Some references do not accept Buddha as such much, because the path is totally different, it is Buddhism altogether. But some people say that Buddha is quite different from Gautama Buddha, that is there. Next you have, so a very slight reference has been given for Buddha Avatara. Then later Kalki will be born on earth as a son of Vishnu Yasha, some people say Vishnu Sharma, and he will take up arms, it seems, to kill all disbelievers, and Kalki's priest will be the sage Yajnavalkya, and all the people, again Kali Yuga comes to an end, all the norms, good habits will be established in the society again. People will honor all kinds of sacred texts, they will become righteous, and Satya Yuga will again start. Now it is believed that, this is not mentioned in the Agni Purana, but it is believed that in the state of Madhya Pradesh, Kalki will be born. And it seems that in Madhya Pradesh there is a temple wherein you have a temple for Lord Ganesha. Kalki Ganesha is the name of that Ganesha, wherein there, now this is just extra reference I am telling you, Kalki Ganesha, there his Vahana is not Mushaka Vahana, it is Ashwa Vahana. He has a horse there. Kalki Bhagavan rides a horse, and there is a big, if you want you can just search on Google also, Kalki Ganesha. In Madhya Pradesh there is a temple, and it seems that idol has reached till Patada. It has got its depth. The depths of the idol reach till Patal Loka, and that's how people come and worship, it seems. So there are many references wherein people say that Kalki Avatara will take place in Madhya Pradesh and so on. I don't know how far it is true. Now it is just, you can say Kalki Avatara, Kali Yuga has just started. So therefore a lot of time for Kalki to come in. Maybe we'll take many births and then ultimately come. Let's see how it goes. But at least in the current birth, maybe we will not be able to witness Kalki Avatara, but still people say that Kalki will be born in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Further, so with this all the avatars, and further Agni. Now Agni Purana, Agni is telling all this to Vasishta. It tells the story of creation. Again, how creation was started. Brahma was born from the navel of Lord Vishnu. First water was born, then a golden egg. Out of that golden egg, Lord Brahma comes in. Swayam Sambhuta. That means nobody gave birth to Brahma, he himself comes out. That's the reason why he is called Swayambhu, sorry. Then Brahma, it seems that he stays inside the egg for an entire year. At the end of the year, he splits the egg into two parts. One part of the egg forms a heaven, other earth, and in between the two parts forms a sky. Further, water, 10 directions, time, lightning, thunder, clouds, rain, words, anger, all this is created. Next, the three Vedas are born, that emerges from his body, so that yajnas and all this is performed. Then 7 Manasa Putras are created by Brahma: Marichi, Atri, Angirasa, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu and Vasishta. Then Prithu is the first king who descends from Dhruva. Prithu's father was Vena. He was an evil king, but he lost his life ultimately. The sages killed Vena, it seems, and Prithu was born. From Prithu, the earth came to be known as Prithvi. Next you have, so with this, the Agni Purana, the initial part, the first part of Agni Purana talks about the main 10 incarnations of Vishnu, and it gives a slight reference. It highlights little about creation. Further, next part about 1.4, this part talks about temples, how one should pray, how one should build temples, what are deities and so on. This part is stressed in the next part of the Agni Purana. Agni Purana has a few chapters wherein the techniques of how you should pray to Lord Vishnu, Shiva, Surya and other gods is described. Special mantras that are told. And it is said that a person who builds temples is blessed. Now in those times kings were responsible, they used to build temples and so on. But at least in today's times, what we can do is we can at least contribute for good activities. Maybe building of temples, or maybe there is a sacrifice somewhere, or someone is doing a noble act. Maybe someone is having a small puja at their house or so, or you have some kumbhabhisheka or something takes place. The least that we can do is maybe we can contribute from our side. It need not be always in terms of money. Maybe you say that I give maybe for a one day sponsor, I will sponsor for food. Nowadays you have so many sponsors, right? Maybe one day food, Annadanam you can sponsor, or maybe puja items we buy and give, or something like that also. So it's not that all, now today's times people prefer a very easy way. We give them money, we say you do whatever you want. Or people also, those institutions or organizations, they also expect the same. You give us in money, we will take care, right? Now, why that happens is mostly now we have like in olden times, it's not that each and everything we have to go and purchase or buy and make arrangements. Nowadays you have some managers, right? You give them the task, they will only take care. You have caterers, you don't have to go and buy all the, maybe the ration, this, that, and give it to them. You just give them the contract, they take care. So that's the reason why nowadays everything is given in terms of money. But then even if we are not able to build temples in today's times, what we can do is some noble activity is taking place, whatever we can from our side. It can be maybe a small amount or something large. So contribution doesn't matter, but then something we must always do. So it is said that even if one merely thinks of building temples, sins of 100 lives are forgiven itself, it seems. So this is what the Agni Purana mentions. And a person who builds temple, he goes to Swarga, and a builder of 5 temples goes to Shivaloka, builder of 8 temples goes to Vishnu Loka, and about 16 temples, a person who builds 16 temples, he will never be born again, he will be freed from the cycle of birth and death, it seems. And here further it is said that Agni Purana questions all the readers that what is the point of earning money if one does not build temples. Now here, though it has been mentioned temples, we can consider it even this way, that maybe contributing for social activities or social welfare. Just as we saw in the Narada Purana also. Narada Purana, Agni Purana talk a lot about social welfare activities. If we earn, it's not that we, say for example, you earn 10,000 rupees. It's not that each and every penny we use it only for ourselves, right? Maybe you have a bit of savings that you do, then you consume for yourself. Little every month, maybe it can be even about 100 rupees, 200 rupees, whatever it is, we can surely keep apart. right? And maybe give it to someone who is needy, or you yourself maybe collect, and one fine day you collect a big amount and do something, a social cause that is there. It is nothing but gratitude and giving back to the society. That's it. So it can be maybe in building temples, or it can be any other social cause. So here further you give it to people who are needy and so on. Now mainly here the contribution for temple building has been stressed upon in the Agni Purana. Then it is said that if you cannot build a full temple, at least you can contribute something for building the main idol of the temple. And idols, how they should be built is they should always face the city. That is it should not, like if there is a main city also, it should be built in the middle. It should not be maybe on the outskirts or in some corner where people cannot go easily, or it is maybe not facing the city. It should not be like that. And it is said that Vishnu's idol can be set up anywhere. It seems anywhere you can set up Lord Vishnu's idol, that is fine. Then if you build temples for the 10 incarnations like Matsyavatara, the idol should be in the form of a fish. Kurmavatara, a turtle. Varahavatara should actually, it should look like a man, and it should have 4 arms with a gadha. A Padmam, that is a lotus flower, a Shankha, Chakra, and so on. So basically Varahavatara should look like a man only with 4 arms, Gada, Shankha, Chakra, and so on. Narasimhavatara should have 2 arms, and it should hold a chakra and a gada. It should wear a garland. So temple building, people who have built temples, they should surely study. Who have built temples, they have studied the Agni Purana. So all this reference comes. So whenever, maybe today we will not go and build temples, but whenever we go to a temple and see different idols or so, we should immediately remember this reference from Agni Purana. Why something has been built in such a way? Oh, just someone felt architecture, someone has studied, they just built like this, they like to build it. It's not like that. There are certain rules which we have to follow, which the Agni Purana stresses upon. How idols should be built in temples, that has been told in the Agni Purana. Next, you have the Vamana. How Vamana's idol should be constructed: with an umbrella and a stick in his 2 hands. Parshurama, 4 hands with a bow, arrow, sword, and an axe. Rama's idol, either 2 arms or 4 arms. If there are 4 arms, 4 hands should have bow, arrow, Shankha, and Chakra. Balarama will also have 4 or 2 arms, and it should have a plough. Hala Yudham Halaha is very important. Shankha, a club, and a chakra. Buddha's image should be very calm and should be seated on a lotus also. And Kalki will always be seated on a horse with bow and arrow, a Shankha, Chakra, and a sword. Krishna's image can also be 2 arms or 4 arms, it seems. 3 will hold Gada, Shankha, and Chakra, and the 4th will be open. That is a hand as if he is blessing the devotees. And on either sides of Krishna's image, there should be Brahma and Shiva. Brahma should have 4 faces, 4 arms, and he should ride a swan. Saraswati and Savitri should also be there. Vishnu's image should have 8 arms. 7 of the arms will have a sword, mace, arrow, Shankha, bow, then a shield, chakra, and the 8th is his blessing the devotees. Hand should be spread out. He should be shown riding a Garuda. Garuda should also have 8 arms. To the right of Vishnu, there should be images of goddess Mahalakshmi and Saraswati. Lakshmi should hold a lotus. Saraswati should be holding the Veena. Then there should be a form of Vishnu in the Vishwarupa form also, showing the universal form. Vishwarupa should have 4 heads and 20 arms. Then Chandi's image should have 20 arms. 10 arms will have different weapons like Shaktis, Chakra, Pasha, drum, and so on. 10 other on the right side should have all this. 10 arms on the left will have a rod, axe, ankusha, bow, bell, flag, mirror, and so on. Then in front there should be an image of a buffalo with its head cut off. So next time whenever you go to a temple, please make a note whether all these things are there or no. Next, it seems that in front of Chandi you have a buffalo with its head cut off, and there should be an image of an asura also that should be shown on the body of that buffalo. Then the demon's hair will be red in color as if he is vomiting blood, and the demon's leg will be on the lion, it seems, and the left leg of the goddess Chandi will be on the leg of the demon. Sometimes Chandi has got many arms like 16, 8, and so on, or even 18. Next, Shivalinga should be made of earth, wood, iron, jewels, gold, copper, silver, whatever it is. So Shivalingas, depending on the place, maybe you go to North India, you have Shivalinga that is white in color. come to South India, it will be black. So it depends on the place we live in. Next, now all this was regarding how temples are constructed, how images, idols are constructed. Next, you have some reference to various pilgrimage places. Then, the best place of pilgrimage, Pushkara. And Pushkara, people go in the month of Kartik, it seems. And near Pushkara, there are two other places of pilgrimage called the Jambu Marga and Tandulika Ashrama. Now, you have Kurukshetra. That is also a place of pilgrimage because Krishna and many gods used to keep coming there. River Saraswati flows near Kurukshetra. Now this is Agni Purana times, river Saraswati was very much flowing on earth. Today's times the river is no longer there. And it says that if one bathes in a Saraswati, one attains Brahmaloka. Unfortunately, we cannot see Saraswati, we can just witness the river in the Triveni Sangama, not anywhere else. And any region wherein the Ganga river flows, that also becomes a Tirtha Kshetra. And even if one sees the Ganga, it is Punyam, it seems. You take a bath in it, that is different. Even if you see the Ganga, it is Punya. And next, Prayag Kshetram, Prayaga, Allahabad, that is also a very famous place of pilgrimage. And it seems that the lords like Brahma, Vishnu, Indra, Gandharvas, Apsaras, sages, they are always present in Prayaga, it seems. And this is because two holy rivers Ganga and Yamuna come there. You have Triveni Sangama. There are many other tirthas also there. And it is said that in the month of Magha, it is roughly in the month of February, if one bathes for about 3 days in Prayaga, it is equal to donating crores and crores of cows, it seems. So that place is so auspicious, and one goes to Swarga and so on. And if one dies in Prayaga, one goes to Vishnu Loka. So this is the auspiciousness of this place. And once Shiva, now all this, some few things would be repeated as we have seen in Narada Purana also. Shiva himself had told Parvati that Varanasi is a very holy tirtha. Shiva never leaves the city. Varanasi is named because it is located at the junction of two rivers, Varana and Asi. And Varanasi is also known as Kashi. River Narmada is also very sacred. There are several tirthas. Out of that, Gaya is a very, very popular place. Gayasura, once he started to perform their tapasya and the gods began to suffer, they all asked the help of Lord Vishnu. And Vishnu comes in front of Gayasura and he tells that what boon you want, you tell. You're doing a lot of penance, you tell what you want. At that time, Gayasura, he says that I should become the most sacred of all Tirtha Kshetras. The boon was granted, Gayasura disappears. The gods return to Swarga. But now, the earth also seemed to be deserted because Gayasura had also disappeared somewhere. So now Vishnu then instructs Brahma and all other gods to perform a sacrifice. He asks all of them to go to Gayasura and ask for his body so that the sacrifice can be done. Gayasura agrees, and his head, it seems that it fell off from the body. So now the gods were also having relief that the Asura has died. And Brahma then, he did a sacrifice on Gayasura's headless body. And it seems that as soon as the sacrifice started, the body began to shake. This means that the sacrifice could not be done properly. And then finally what they did was they found a solution. They kept a stone there to balance the body of Gayasura. Then the sacrifice was done. Vishnu himself entered the stone. And this is the reason why the Shraddha Karma or different sacrifices that we do in Gaya is very, very auspicious, because it seems that the gods and Vishnu, they are always present in this place, Gaya. Now in fact there is a story behind these stones also that are there in Gaya. That's the reason, if you see, I don't know whether all of you are familiar, whenever we do the Shraddha Karma, sometimes you keep some stones also. Has anyone done that? You have the small black color stones that are sometimes kept. No one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You have seen, right? I don't know whether it is done in all traditions, but sometimes you have that small black color stone that is kept. There is a story behind that too. We'll see that. And usually that black color stone is kept wherein you don't have priests also sometimes coming. Like when I will tell you my experience when I had seen those stones was during this COVID times, when the priests and they all used to not come. So when we were doing the Shraddha of my grandfather, it was the first year, but we couldn't do, unfortunately. 2020 he passed away, so 21 we had to do. But then it was COVID times, So at that time what we did was, it was through online also, he told us to do, the priest. So what he told, he had given those stones that were there, and that priest had not come, but then when my father was doing, he had just kept those stones there, and at that time he said that these stones are equal to the Shraddha being done at Gaya. In fact, when you have the Shraddha, when we do the Shraddha Karma also, the priest tells that Gaya Shraddham, Gaya Shraddham, Gaya Shraddham. He will tell you to chant it thrice. The reason is, though we are doing the Shraddha at our own houses or wherever you do it, the punya that you get will be equal to the Shraddha that you do in Gaya. So like this, those stones, sometimes they are bought by the priest, sometimes they are not bought. So this is the significance of that. Next, what is the story behind that? Let's have a look. The sage Marichi, he was Brahma's son out of the Manasa Putras, and he had married a woman called Dharmavrata. Once he went to the forest to collect woods, this and that, and he became extremely tired. And he calls his wife and said, "I'm very tired today." And Dharmavrata, she began to wash Marichi's feet, and she began to, maybe he was very tired, so she tried to press his feet and so on. At that time, Brahma suddenly comes there, and Dharmavrata, she did not know what to do. Like, she felt, should she go and first meet Brahma, or should she finish attending her husband, or what exactly she should do. So she decided, I will go and attend Brahma first. Marichi became very angry because he did not notice Brahma, and he cursed Dharmavrata that you will turn into a stone. Dharmavrata, she became very sad. She said, "It is no fault of mine. My father-in-law, Lord Brahma himself has come. I just went to attend him. That's it." And she performed tapasya for many years. And Vishnu and all the other gods, they were pleased at her meditation. They appeared and they gave her a boon. So Dharmavrata, she said that this curse that is given to me, that should be taken away. God said that once a curse is given, we cannot take it away. That too, Marichi is a very powerful sage, one of the Manasa Putras of Brahma. But what we can do is, we will make you a very holy stone which will be desired even by the gods, and the gods also promised that we will always live in this stone. And this was how this stone was placed on Gayasura's body, and that's the reason you have different stones that are sometimes kept during the Shraddha Karma and so on. Finally, once the sacrifice was over, Gayasura also got a boon from the gods that Gaya will become the most sacred of all Tirthas, and that's how it is said that the Pandavas also had visited this place Gaya and they had prayed to Lord Vishnu. Next, you have some reference of geography that has been told. World is divided into 7 regions. That's how we have the 7 continents or dvipas. Now today we know 7 continents. Earlier it was dvipas. Jambu Dvipa, Plaksha, Shalmali, Kusha, Krauncha, Shaka, Pushkara. They are surrounded by 7 oceans. Names of the 7 oceans: Lavana, Ikshu, Sura, Sarpi, Dadi, Dugdha, Jala. Now we have different oceans: Pacific, Mediterranean, Indian, Arctic, Antarctic, and so on. In the center of the Jambu Dvipa is Mount Meru. Mountains like Himavan, that is the Himalayas, Hemakuta, Nishada, are there to the south of Meru. Mountains named Neela, Shweta, Shringi are to the north of Meru. Jambu Dvipa is known by the name as there are a lot of jamun trees in this area. On the top of Mount Meru is Brahma city, and under the earth is the underworld. There are 7 regions, 7 hills, 7 Patala, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala. Daityas, Danavas, they live there. Vishnu also lives there in the form of Sheshanaga, and Sheshanaga holds up the earth, it seems, on his hood. And the part of the sky which is lit up by the sun is called Nabha. And above the earth is the sun, above the sun is the moon, above the moon are the stars, above the stars is Mercury, then Venus, then Jupiter, then after Jupiter you have the Great Bear, that is the Saptarshi Mandala, the constellation Great Bear, and beyond this constellation is Dhruva, that is the pole star. So whatever we study in geography, the same has been mentioned in Agni Purana. Next, Agni Purana gives a lot of information on astrology. It states when marriages should take place, when they should not take place. For example, marriages should never take place in the months of Chaitra and Pausha, it seems. And certain signs, like for example, I am talking about the zodiac signs, like when you have the Libra or Gemini, such signs during this time also. So it is like in the month of Chaitra or Pausha, or during the zodiac signs Libra and Gemini, the wedding ceremony should not take place. And when one is going on a trip, it seems that Friday is the best day to start on. Now all this has been mentioned in the Agni Purana. How far people follow, in fact now on Fridays also sometimes people say that you should never go out because it is a day of the goddess, especially in those houses where you have the goddess puja that is done. You should never leave the house. That too, it seems that that too when ladies go out, it's said as if goddess herself is leaving the house and going. So like this, there are many traditions that are told. It just depends. Agni Purana stresses upon this. Friday is the best day to start. Maybe that's the reason why most of our weekend trips start on Friday. We never know. People prefer, right, going on Friday, coming back by Sunday or so. Next, medicine should not be taken if one of the nakshatras is not there in the sky, it seems. What are those nakshatras? Pushya, Hasta, Jeshta, Shravana, Ashwini. Now, people in those times knew about astrology. Now, please don't get into all this much. If you are ill, please take a medicine. Otherwise, you look at the sky, when a nakshatra is there, the person might die then. Okay, so all this, people in those times used to have. Now, does that mean that all this is fake then? Why am I listening to all this then? It is believed that certain reactions, certain planetary motions in the sky do have an impact on our bodies, like you have the eclipse phenomena, right? So we don't consume anything during eclipse. And in those times, maybe people, they did not know a lot, they were not aware of many things, and at the same time maybe they used not fall ill also. And maybe they knew the study of astrology, Jyotisha Shastram, so they could make out the different nakshatras that are there in sky and so on, and that's how they used to consume medicines and all. Today's times we are not aware of all that, so therefore we cannot comment anything on this. Whenever we fall ill, we have to consume a medicine. Next, Saturday is the best day for having an oil bath and all that. So some people, we consume those different kashayas, oil bath, such things that we do. Saturday is the best day to do. And it is said that the first time when we shave the child's head, that should never be done on Tuesday or Saturday. Ear piercing should be done on a Wednesday or Thursday. New clothes should not be worn on Wednesday, Thursday or Friday. All this is mentioned in the Agni Purana. Next time be careful whenever you wear new clothes. Okay. And then Griha Pravesha should not be done in the months of Chaitra, Jeshta, Bhadra, Ashwina, Pausha, Magha. And farmers should reap grains on Wednesday, it seems. That is the best day. Maybe the middle of the week, that's the reason. So like this, there are few things that are told. There might be reasons for this, it's just that all this is Jyotisha Shastram, astrology. Further, you have the story of Manvantaras that has been told. Now Manvantaras, we have already studied this, so let's not get into that. Each of the Manvantaras, who was a Manu, who was a Indra, and so on. Next you have the Varnashrama Dharma that has been told, which again is a repetition. Brahmacharya Ashrama, Grihastha Ashrama, and so on. Then you have sins and what kind of Prayashchitta is done. Mainly, and to which region you go, what kind of punishments are given, and so on. And further, you have different vratas also that are told in the Agni Purana, like the Narada Purana. Now, mainly in the Agni Purana, you have certain sins that are told, and the concept of Prayashchitta that also has been highlighted here. So, our Dharma, if you see, when it talks about sins, it also accepts Prayashchitta. Prayashchittam is wherein now unknowingly or knowingly, all of us knowingly we do sins. Unknowingly also there are so many sins. Whenever you are sitting somewhere, there are so many bacteria, maybe because of you they are killed, or you walk on the road, because of you so many bacteria are killed, right? So we don't know about all this, but unknowingly also a lot of crimes, sins are done. So for that, Prayashchitta is done. And for this, whenever a sin is committed, the king's duty, now in those times kings used to rule about, so it is the king's duty to punish the sinner. Next, you have the list of certain sins that are told and Prayashchitta. Next, you have different vratas that are followed depending on the season, month, nakshatra, position of the sun, moon, and so on. And the first day of, that is a Pratipada, on that Prathama day, in the months of Kartik, Ashwin, and Chaitra, they are called Brahma's Tithis. And on these 3 days, that is in the months of Kartika, Ashwin, and Chaitra, on the first day, on the Prathama Tithi, we do the worship of Brahma. On the second day, that is on the Dvitiya, it seems that we should pray to the two Ashwini Kumaras. Further, you have on the third day of the Shukla Paksha in the month of Chaitra, on that day Shiva marries Parvati or Gauri. You have Gauri Kalyanam or Gauri Vrata that is done. Third day, that is Tritiya Shukla Paksha in the month of Chaitra. And on this day, 8 names of goddess Parvati are recited. Lalita, Vijaya, Bhadra, Bhavani, Kumuda, Shiva, Vasudevi and Gauri. I repeat, Lalita, Vijaya, Bhadra, Bhavani, Kumuda, Shiva, Vasudevi and Gauri. Then Chaturthi Vrata is done in the month of Magha. Ganadevata, mainly Ganesha is worshipped here. Then a lot of fragrant things are offered. On the 5th day, Panchami Vrata. Panchami, on any Panchami in the months of, now always remember, vratas should always be done in the Shukla Paksha, not in the Krishna Paksha. On the 5th day, Panchami, if some vratas are done, it grants good health, and it is done in the months of Shravan, Bhadra, Ashwin and Kartik. Vratas are done for good health and bad omens, to be free from bad omens. On the Shashti Vrata, what you do is you live only on fruit, and this is done in the months of Kartik and Bhadrapada. Next, Surya is worshipped on Saptami, Ratha Saptami, that we celebrate. Any Saptami, especially in the Shukla Paksha, on any day you can do, any month, any day. Sins are done, and those women who are not blessed with children, they too are blessed with children if the vrata is done on the Saptami of any month. Next is Ashtami, very very auspicious. Lord Krishna was born in this city in the month of Bhadrapada, when the nakshatra Rohini was there, so it is very very auspicious. Gokula Ashtami, if one fasts and prays to Lord Krishna, it is said that the sins of all the earlier 7 lives are done, are destroyed. And always remember, this vrata that is there, this is an only exception, Gokulashtami vrata. Janmashtami vrata is done in the Krishna Paksha, because Krishna was born in the Krishna Paksha. Rest all the vratas should be done in the Shukla Paksha. Only the Gokulashtami vrata is done in the Krishna Paksha. Together, along with Krishna, Rohini, the moon, Devaki, Vasudeva, Yashoda, Nanda, Balarama, all are worshipped. And since Krishna took birth on this day, it is known as Janmashtami. Then, the 8th day is also important. 8th day especially should be on a Wednesday. Whenever Ashtami falls on a Wednesday, it is very very important. It's called Buddha Ashtami. On this day, you must live only on rice, it seems. You eat only rice and you perform the vrata. Next, in the month of Bhadrapada, now every time it might not happen that in the Shukla Paksha Ashtami falls on a Wednesday. So all through the year, any one day, any Ashtami you can take in the Shukla Paksha which falls in a Wednesday. All throughout the year you can find out, and this vrata is done. Now like this, there are different vratas which are done. And there was a Brahmin, his name was Dhira, his wife was Rambha, and they had a son Kaushika and a daughter Vijaya. And this Kaushika, his son, he used to graze cows. He had a bull and they used to graze with other cowherds there. And now he had performed this vrata, Buddhashtami vrata. That's the reason you have this story in the Agni Purana. And once while he was having a bath in the river Bhagirathi nearby, that is Ganga, and the bull was grazing, some thieves come and they steal the bull and go away. Kaushika and his sister Vijaya, they searched the cow everywhere, they could not find it. And they came to a lake where some women were bathing, they were doing a vrata and so on. And both these brother and sister, they were very hungry, they craved for some food. The woman agreed to give them some food, and they said that you have to also perform this Buddhashtami vrata, only then you will get the food. And it seemed that as Kaushika, he did this vrata, miraculously the bull, it came back from somewhere. Such are the powers of this vrata, that it seems that Kaushika, he married off his sister Yama, and he himself became the king of Ayodhya. After that, after their parents had passed about, Vijaya, she came to know that her father and mother were in Naraka, and she had married off Yama. So she asked Yama how my parents can be brought back from Naraka. Yama told her that Kaushika and Vijaya, both of them, you perform the Buddhashtami vrata again, and immediately after they did that, their parents attained Swarga. So this is the power of this vrata. Next is the Navami vrata in the month of Ashwin. Especially it is done for the worship of think I lost my network. Just hold on. Can you hear me now? Can all of you hear me now? I think I lost connection.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so could you hear the story of Kaushika and Vijaya?
No, we just started. We heard that if you perform the Buddhashtami Vrata only, you will. That's where we.
Okay, so basically Kaushika and Vijaya, they were the brother and sister who had performed this Buddhashtami Vrata, and ultimately only after they performed the Vrata they got food. And later Kaushika, he becomes the king of Ayodhya, and he married off his sister to Yama. And later Vijaya, she had married Yama, and they later realized that their parents had gone to Naraka. And she asks Yama, how will my parents be delivered from Naraka? How will they go attain Swarga? So that's when Yama tells that both you and your brother Kaushika, you perform the Buddhashtami Vrata again, and that's how your parents will be freed. They can go to Swarga, and ultimately they do that, and both the parents reach Swarga. So that's how this is the importance of Buddhashtami Vrata. Buddhashtami on a Budhavara, Wednesday, when the Ashtami falls. Next you have Navami. Navami in the Shukla Paksha in the month of Ashwin, it is very much auspicious for the worship of Gauri. And sometimes what is done is, and animal sacrifices are also done on this day in some traditions also, but usually nowadays we don't do animal sacrifices as such, but sometimes some people have this habit of even doing animal sacrifices. Next, on the Dashami day, about 10 cows are donated, and so on. Ekadashi is for fasting, also a tithi for praying to Lord Vishnu. And observance of Ekadashi is when one is blessed with sons, wealth, and so on. 12th day, Dwadashi in the Shukla Paksha, very auspicious for worshipping Vishnu. We have seen the Dwadashi Vrata in detail in Narada Purana. Dwadashi in the month of Bhadrapada is for praying to cows and calves. And in the month of Chaitra, we pray to the god of love, Madana. And the entire Dwadashi Vrata sometimes people do as per the Narada Purana. That is also very auspicious. Then a very auspicious Dwadashi is when Shravana Nakshatra also falls along with Dwadashi Shukla Paksha in the month of Bhadrapada. And if one fasts on this day, then it's very, very auspicious. And if you have the Buddha also is there in the sky, that is Mercury, planet Buddha, the Punya is still more. So all this is, so you see why so many details are mentioned in detail. Why it is mentioned so much is people were also familiar with astrology. Agni Purana also stresses upon this. So that's the reason why all this has been mentioned in detail. Next is the Trayodashi Vrata, and mainly Trayodashi Vrata was first done by Kamadeva in order to please Lord Shiva, and this is a Tithi Trayodashi. That's the reason why in most of the Trayodashis you have the Pradosha Kala, Pradosha Puja that comes in, because he was the one, Kamadeva had done this Vrata to please Lord Shiva. Very auspicious day, for Lord Shiva. In the month of Ashwin, Lord Indra is also worshipped on this Tithi, and in the month of Chaitra, in the Shukla Paksha, again the god of love, Kamadeva, is also worshipped. Next, Chaturdashi is also for Lord Shiva in the month of Kartik, and one fasts, you do a lot of donation. Chaturdashi, that falls in the Krishna Paksha between the months of Magha and Falguna, Shivaratri. So Shivaratri and Krishna Janmashtami are only two festivals that fall in the Krishna Paksha. Rest all the vratas fall in the Shukla Paksha. And on this day is when we fast and you stay awake for the whole night. And there was a hunter also called Sundareshana, Sundarasena. He had done the Shivaratri Vrata, and that's how even the hunter, evil hunter, also all his sins had gone away. So this Shivaratri Vrata is again very auspicious. Next, you have the section of Narakas that has been mentioned in the Agni Purana. So with this, starting from Pratipada, Prathama till Chaturdashi, different vratas have been told in the Agni Purana. Next, you have different hells that are told. This to some extent we have already seen. Raurava Naraka, Maharaurava, Tamishra, and so on, depending on different punishments. We have already seen in previous Puranas. I'm not going too much deep in that. It can be a bit disturbing at times, but then it is also mentioned in detail in Garuda Purana. Also, Agni Purana talks about this 1.6. Next, the importance of charity has been mentioned in the Agni Purana. Then now, depending on the yugas, also how charity has changed, that has been told here. And in Satya Yuga, it seems that people used to go by themselves in search of someone who can accept something. So people were ready to give, but there were no one who used to accept things. Treta Yuga, it seems that the person used to be called to the giver's house, saying that I want to give something, you please come to my house. So only if someone invited, then the giver used to then the recipient used to go to the person who gave. So this was happening in the Treta Yuga during Ramayana times. Dwapara Yuga, it seems that until and unless someone asked, the giver used to not give anything. So if you ask something, I will give you in times of Krishna. And Kali Yuga, it seems that the giver, even if you ask, even if someone is in need, we don't give. So this is what has been told in the Agni Purana, and the same thing we can see is very much evident, right? In Kali Yuga, even if people ask, also we think so many times too. Yeah. Next, you have the Gayatri Mantra. Gayatri Mantra also has its significance in the Agni Purana. Gayatri Mantra, very powerful mantra. And it seems that the human body has about 10 veins. We have different veins running all over in our body. 10 veins are important. They are Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. Veins are nothing but Nadi. Nadi Shastram. Ida, Pingala, Sushumna Nadi is very famous. Gandhari, Hastijibha, Pritha, Yasha, Alambusha, Huha, Shankhini. You listen to the audio later, or you can also just search if you bought 10 important veins. And these veins are actually the breath of our life. Sometimes you have blood leaking from the veins, right? So veins are the ones that run blood, supply blood to the entire body. And the breath of life is Pranavayu. Apart from Pranavayu, there are other major breaths also that are there. Their names are Apana, Samana, Udana, Vyana, Naga, Kurma, Krikara, Devadatta, Dhananjaya. Pranavayu is oxygen. Apart from that also, there are 9 other Vayus that move about in our body. Gayatri is a goddess who is worshipped by Vishnu and Shiva. This goddess is there everywhere. It seems that in every individual's heart she is present in the form of a swan, and that's the reason why the Gayatri Mantra is chanted. If you chant it 7 times, all sins are gone away. 10 times one attains Swarga, and it seems that 20 times or so the Gayatri Mantra is chanted, you get more than Swarga. 108 times free from birth and death. Severest of severe sins like killing cows, Brahmins, or even one's parents are forgiven if one chants a mantra 1,000 times, and it is always preceded by chanting the syllable Om, the Pranava mantra. So this is what is mentioned in the Agni Purana. There is no reference which says that woman should not chant the Gayatri Mantra and so on, at least in the Agni Purana. So therefore, those who know, in fact, Gayatri Mantra is something which all of us as young kids are taught, right? The first mantra that is taught is the Gayatri Mantra. Okay. Next you have the duties of King. Rajadharma is mentioned there, how one should rule the kingdom, what are the different how he should take care of his subjects, what kind of tapasya, meditation, penance he should do, how he should appoint a wise brahmana as the priest, and he should be very wise. The queen also should be wise, because we see that, as history is evident, sometimes like Ramayana best example, if the queen is evil, the king also has to suffer. Therefore the queens should also be smart. Then if the king dies, time should not be wasted in sorrow. Immediately the new king should be appointed. If the king has a son, then it is fine. Otherwise the prince should be appointed immediately. Then how the coronation should take place, sandalwood, then the holy water from 7 rivers and so on should be brought about from different pilgrimage places. Abhisheka should be done. There should be celebration, songs, musical instruments, dance performances, this, that. Then the kings will pray to Brahma, Vishnu, all other gods and so on. pray to all elderly people, many sages should be invited. This is how the coronation, how Abhisheka should be done, that has been mentioned in detail. Then different officials, different ministers have to be appointed. So that's the reason why you see whenever we have the change of governments, right, you also have the change of ministers that take place. The same thing has been mentioned in the Agni Purana. Only those times we didn't have ministers, president, prime minister. It was just king and his assembly of ministers. Next, immediately the property rights also of an orphan, it seems, should be protected by the king. This is nothing but equal to something what we have minor, right? Whenever you fill some form or certificate, we write there, right? Minor, major. 18 years and above is major, be less than 18 years minor. So for minors we have certain rights that are there, which are told by the government, certain laws are made. Same thing has been mentioned in the Agni Purana. The king has to make proper rights for that. Then if there is some theft also, what kind of punishment should be given, how it is seen that whatever has been stolen, before you find the thief also, the king should repay that from his own treasury. Then whatever profits he makes, if he is some profit is made in the kingdom, say for example there are traders, businessmen or so, 1/20th part of that profit should be given to the king as tax. Today we pay some tax, right? So tax system existed still then, and it seems that 1/5 or 1/6 of food grains, if there is a farmer or so, that should be paid as taxes. And it's said that one day every month the craftsmen who are there, now in those times people used to be farmers or something into handicrafts and so on, they will work free of charge for the king. So all this was a way of repaying tax, and they will be given food from the royal kitchen and so on. And the king should pay proper attention to the princes and the children around. They will be taught different kind of shastras. First is Dharma Shastra, to teach what is right, what is wrong. Next is Artha Shastra, economics. Third is Dhanurveda, art of archery and fighting. Last is Shilpa Shastram, art, craft and so on. Next, bodyguards are assigned to take care of the boundaries, princes, queens and so on. And at the same time, the king should pay attention to the young generation also, to his own children as well as other princes in the kingdom, because they are going to be the future of the kingdom. So the king should be concerned not only with his own life but also about the future of the kingdom. The king should give up hunting, drinking, gambling and so on, all kinds of evil habits. He should not waste time at all and so on. So like this, different rules have been mentioned. We have just seen little. Today time is up. We will stop here. Rajadharma, further what has been stressed upon in the Agni Purana, will continue next week.